But then something went afoul, I believe. They had to then take him into custody. And then, of course, they then had to get Ruby to kill him. By the way, there's a phenomenal new book on it out, Alex. I don't know if you know of it. Have you heard of Judith Barry Baker?
Yes.
Well, I just read her book. Fills in all the blanks of New Orleans prior to him going to Dallas. Everything. The entire Jim Garrison case becomes crystal clear. This was Oswald's mistress. And she knows more than Marina would ever know, because that's one of the keys to the mystery. Oswald was already estranged from Marina for months prior to the killing.
Amazing.
He was having an affair with this woman, and she herself was involved in the whole thing. Oswald clearly was a CIA agent and an FBI informant, because he was working on a project with this woman, with David Ferry, with Dr. Oshner of the famous Oshner Cancer Clinic down in Tulane. They were attempting to create a fast-moving cancer of which to assassinate Castro.
And now they put it in the vaccines. Governor...
But that's the behind the story of who Lee Harvey Oswald was. Why do you think, Alex, they had to take all information on Oswald and lock it up in the National Archives because of national security?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, why do you think he's out at a secret U-2 spy plane base in Japan, is allowed to go to Russia, and allowed to defect back, and then just left alone and not thrown in irons? I mean, this guy...
Lee Oswald, if you read this book by Judith Barry Baker, she wrote the book. She's in hiding. She's in Europe right now. And she's been in hiding. Do you know how she hid out all these years? She became a Mormon. And she entered Mormons have kind of their close-knit communities of protection. And that's how David Ferry warned her, if you want to live, you better go underground. And she did. Her husband didn't know about this. Her children didn't. And it's all documented in this book. It's just thrilling to read this thing.
Well, I want to get her on the show. I've been meaning to do that.
You won't get her. She's in Europe. She won't come here because of fear for her life, even today. And in the book, though, you remember when Oswald worked at the O'Reilly Coffee Company?
Yes.
She was likewise hired there. That was both under the guise of working for Dr. Oshner. Oswald could move about freely because she did his time cards every day. And in the book, she shows you the time cards with her initials at the bottom. It's all true. And it's all documented. She has it all.
Now,
Oswald was a government agent.
Definitely. It's even come out in some government documents that he was. Also, we have CIA documents that have been declassified that show a George Herbert Walker Bush working for the CIA, but he said he was never in the CIA until the mid-'70s when Nixon, who we know was involved in the JFK operation, magically makes him CIA director. But tonight, you guys really do something that takes a lot of chutzpah.
Well, whenever you do one of these things, Alex, you think you know it all. I mean, I've been studying JFK now for over 25 years, but in the course of doing this, even I got stunned when there's a connection to George Herbert Walker Bush, and we will expose that tonight also. And it was something that I never had a clue of in all of the research I had done up until this. So that's one of the exciting things about doing this show, is no matter what preconceived ideas that I have and knowledge I have going in, something always happens or something rears its head that I had unaware of. Like in many cases, it always turns out to be Halliburton. But in this case, of course, it's different.
But Halliburton was involved in one way. Halliburton was a subsidiary of Kellogg, Brown, and Root that made the billions of dollars on construction projects and dredging the Gulf of Tonkin and other areas. They were some of the biggest lobbyists angry about...
Again, Halliburton rears its head even 40 years after the war. Amazing.
Unbelievable. That's coming up tonight, 9 o'clock on True TV.
Yep.
It's on most basic cable packages.
And you know what'll be interesting, Alex? Now, this should be headline news in the paper tomorrow, shouldn't it?
Yes.
I mean, the fact that someone has now confessed to killing our president, because let's remember something. There's no statute of limitations on murder. If you kill someone 50 years ago, you can be tried for it today because there's no statute of limitations. So here you have a confession to the murder of our president, and yet mainstream media won't even report this show tomorrow, that this happened.
Governor, let's try
This ought to be on the front page of every newspaper in America.
Governor, let's try to change that together with the audience right now. We have succeeded in the 50-plus times we've done this almost every time. Yesterday, we did a term dealing with silver and only made it to number 2. We need to make this the number 1 Google search today, right now, so that hundreds of publications go click on it and find out that it's Infowars.com and PrisonPlanet.com. We need to make JFK deathbed confession those 3 words, and that will lead them to Jesse Ventura to air JFK assassination deathbed confession. That will lead them to the article that leads them to the show tonight. Folks, this is true activism, just like we started 3 weeks ago, the revolt against the TSA. Here on this show, even mainstream media has admitted that. The Drudge Report teamed up with us, and now it's the biggest story, and the revolt is on. We can have another salvo for truth here. I want you to go to Google and type in this acronym in 2 words, JFK, or the initials, not acronym, JFK deathbed confession, JFK deathbed confession. I even want the crew to type it into Google right now. I'm going to do it during the break. JFK deathbed confession, JFK deathbed confession, those 3 words. Let's make it number 1. I mean, they've put a lot on the line. They've had guys in suits breaking into their trash, trying to find out their JFK contacts. I've been getting threats. There's been all sorts of chicanery going on. They exposed the FEMA camps last week like no one has ever done, with the complete proof. We're going to talk about that before Jesse's got to leave here in about 12 minutes. This is just as breaking or more tonight, 9 o'clock Central, 10 o'clock Eastern. Let's make it the number 1 search term today so people get interested and check it out. This is how we go around the media blockade. JFK deathbed confession. Now, shifting gears, Governor Ventura, I want to salute you, and I want to say I was honored to be involved, and thank you for involving me. And on the fusion centers, the MIAC report that we broke last year when law enforcement gave it to us, but putting it on national TV, going to the FEMA camps, going and confronting the congressmen that co-authored and sponsored bills, having them play dumb, and then confronting them with the bill. I thought it was going to re-air tonight like the Wall Street one aired from the week before, last week before the police state one, but they're not re-airing the police state tonight at 8. They're airing something else, one of the previous shows, and that's fine. But I think this is some of the most important television I've ever seen. It really woke a lot of folks up. We've had Glenn Beck denying FEMA camps. We've had popular mechanics with their classic disinfo, straw men, going to things that aren't camps to then say there are no camps in the world, you know, with that classic tactic. What can you...
Alex, the bottom line was I saw one.
Absolutely.
I mean, I stood in front of it, and they call it a residence. And the thing's got barbed wire fence. It's got multiple fences, 20 feet in between them. I was a governor. I know what a prison looks like. And, you know, this looks like a prison. You can't walk in it. No one can come out freely, yet it's called a residence. They even have a sign. You can be arrested if you bring in anything that allows someone to escape. Well, then clearly this is not what I saw, a residence. This is a detainment center, which is another word for a prison.
Guys, give me a document cam shot for PrisonPlanet.tv viewers.
And so, you know, that's the bottom line, is that these places are out there. The other big thing to remember is when I go to confront these congressmen, remember, they may be telling the truth. They maybe don't know what's in the bill. That's how inadequate these Democrats and Republicans are today, because they're told how to vote by their political parties. They don't need to know what's in a bill. They get told from the higher echelon, vote yes on this, vote no on that. Well, why would they subject themselves to all that additional reading if they're told how to vote in the first place?
Well, sir, there's some breaking news on this front. We have had listeners that have contacted Jim Gerlich, his office, that have contacted the other congressman that you were able to talk to, Steve Cohen of Tennessee, and he sent a response out, Gerlich did, and said, I was made aware of the legislation by Willow Grove Air Force Base, and he says the base is in the process of being decommissioned and would be an effective way for both save jobs and prepare for emergencies. And he goes on to say citizens would not be held against their will. But when you go to the urban warfare drills, when you see what FEMA's training for, when you read the bill, it says any purpose that Homeland Security and FEMA see fit. And you confront them. Maybe Gerlich is ignorant, but watching the body language of Cohen, and then watching him laugh, and once you hand him the bill and say, oh, actually, I do know about this. I mean, talk about a Perry Mason moment, Governor. But I mean, specifically, what was it like when you brought up the camps in the bill, and then he just says, oh, big aliens, green men, people coming down in machines?
Yeah, they make light of it. They just laugh it off with you like it's much ado about nothing. Why are you concerned about this? I've told you there's no problem. So I guess you're just supposed to believe this elected person. It's don't believe your lying eyes, Alex. When you go and, like I have, and visually see them, and then you actually use your eyes to read the bill, it's almost like they're saying to you, oh, don't believe your lying eyes. I'll give you the answer here.
Well, you've made history. No one has ever put this together on national television, and that's another issue. How are you getting this on television?
Well, I don't know. Let's give True TV credit and Mark Juris, the head of the network, because he told me unequivocally at dinner, he said there's never been any thought that your shows would not go on from the moment we contracted to do them. And I never believed they'd go on either.
Well, I'll tell you.
Maybe the powers to be are so arrogant now that they're to the point where it doesn't matter anymore, whether we know now or not.
I agree. I think that's probably 50% of it. The rest is they operate through our ignorance, our compartmentalization, and a lot of people in media, in the power structure, really aren't part of the elite. And so the globalists can't come out in every case and stop something from getting on air now. They always just counted on people self-censoring or saying, oh, I don't believe that.
Right. Well, let's remember, too, what Albert Einstein said, and it applies greatly to the United States of America. Albert Einstein's quote, a foolish faith in authority is the enemy of the truth. And that's what we have in this country, our egos. We have this foolish faith in authority, that authority would never do anything to harm us. Authority is always good and has our best interest in mind. Well, I got news for you. You can be deceived. You can elect evil people. They can deceive you. They will portray to you something that they are not. You've all seen pro wrestling. Well, pro wrestling isn't too far from pro politics.
Absolutely. Let me add one more point. In Gerlich's response to constituents, he says, however, as I made clear to Mr. Ventura,